One of the important epiphanies I've had over the last half a decade is found that it is I found that uh, making money and doing things, these two things are quite divergent. Maybe not extremely divergent, but it is very obvious that there is a non-trifling distance between these two. Uh, Ideally, they should converge. First of all, let me define making money. Obviously, is people hand you the actual money, or in a modern sense, electronic money. People actually make the bank account transfer uh, to your bank account. They key in your account and transfer the money. And doing things, on the other hand, doing things, the phrase of doing things is confoundingly amorphous. We use the phrase every single day. I have to do this. I have to do that. People always say that. But however, it encompasses quite a lot of things, as tiny as sweeping your floor, cooking your food, writing a letter, email, um, uploading a video. But it also means something quite macro, like all kinds of occupations we have. Doctors treat patients, engineers make machines, and barbers cut hair, all those sort of things. Maybe it is best to define doing things negatively. It means you are not idle, you are not laying on your bed, doing nothing. And hence, doing things and making money, they seem quite divergent for me. Ideally, they should converge because if you think about it, why do people give you money? Except a few really anomalous cases, such as you rob people, you point a gun on the head of someone, then he or she would give you money, or maybe you blackmail him or her using his or her sex tapes, or maybe you learn a witchcraft and you successfully hypnotize someone, then he or she willingly gives you his or her money. But except those anomalous cases, people would only give you money when you give something they truly need in return. And let's think about it. How do you give something people truly need? You have to give something, right? A service or a product, and you have to do things. There's no way that you could lie on bed and lying on bed itself, the activity, or rather the inactivity, would give something people truly need, and hence they won't give you money. Even porn stars, lying on bed itself, you have to strip off your clothes, you have to moan a lot. So it is not absolutely nothing. Sorry for obscene example. Hence, ideally, they should converge. Doing things is equivalent to giving something people want, and once you give them something they need, they give you money in return, and therefore you make money. And hence, why is there a divergence? At first, years ago, I stumbled upon a word called monetization, monetize or monetize. I don't really know the pronunciation. When I found that word, I was kind of flabbergasted, to be honest. My first reaction was, oh wow, people actually concocted a verb out of the noun money. Very weird. You have a noun money, and then you add ise as the suffix at the back, then it becomes monetize. And when I saw that word, I couldn't understand what it really means, because it was as if, like for example, all the time, right, we are sticking on the ground, right, due to gravity. We don't really form a verb out of gravity. We don't use the verb gravitize, saying that you and I are gravitized on Earth right now. We don't say that. That is very, very bizarre. And meanwhile, to use a more obscene example, we don't use the word erect for men. We don't say that please erect your penis, let's erect our penises. We don't say that, right? The reason is biologically it's just impossible. It is a passive activity. We will say that, oh, my penis is erected, but we never use it in the active sense. And hence, the word monetize seems very odd to me, because just now I have already, by deduction, showed you that you give something people need and they give you money. Then making money is equivalent to making something people need, doing some things. Why do we need a verb in the middle, monetize, the verb to confound the whole thing? And then I started thinking, when people use the verb monetize, what do they really actually mean? Maybe it would be best to first illustrate using an actual example of a real process between a seller, a producer giving something to a buyer who pays the seller money, the entire process. And of course, in accord to first reasoning principle, it is best to illustrate a really ancient example. In ancient world, for example, you have a hunter-gatherer went into forest, and he plucked some really succulent fruits, really good fruits, and ideally he or she should just consume it, right? Why do you need to? Oh, by the way, to explain this, we have to first digress and further dissect what is really is money. Money is actually trade, because hunter-gatherer, even he or she didn't have money, he would have to trade something with other people. Maybe some other people have cotton that could be weaved into clothes. Maybe some other people have bricks or wood that could build houses. Maybe some other people found some herbs that could be a medicine to treat some illnesses. And hence, the hunter-gatherer couldn't just sustain purely based on the fruits. He or she would definitely want something else. And he or she, today in a modern sense, we use money. Let's say we produce some fruits. We have to sell it and we make money, and then eventually we take the money and buy the actual medicine, the actual cotton. But back then, hunter-gatherer would do trade. He or she, after plucking the fruits, would either, because another person who has collected a lot of herbs saw the fruits of this hunter-gatherer, and then this herbs collector would go and approach the hunter-gatherer. Oh, you have so much of fruits, I have these herbs. Do you want to trade? I need fruits, you need herbs. Or maybe no one saw the fruits plucked by the hunter-gatherers. And hence the hunter-gatherers, after plucking the fruit, have to go and knock the door and approach someone who has collected herbs and tell him, oh, I have all these fruits. Would you like to have it? Because I really want your herbs. And hence this was what ancient humans did. And basically it is, you do something, you pluck some fruits, you collect some herbs, you trade. And of course there wasn't this concept of monetization, but to really compare this analogy with a modern sense of monetization, we could say that monetization actually means the process of this hunter-gatherer bringing the fruits and go and approach the people and ask, do you want it? Do you actually want it? And so that is the most atomic sense what monetization actually mean. But however, very unfortunately, I don't think people today use it in that sense. It's not as simple as you at your restaurant cook a food, and then you have this food, you have this meal, already cooked meal. You go and ask people, do you want it? People today use the word monetize more than that. It encompasses many things that I feel very voodoo. Such as people talk about advertising, packaging, branding. The word branding, I really can't stand it. It is just so obnoxious, so appalling. Like probably the most abstract word in the English dictionary: branding, packaging, advertising. Then of course people talk about search engine optimization, and then people all kinds of businesses. Many businesses often have this weird process whereby in a meeting they like to discuss, okay, how do we monetize this? Uh, uh, how do we lure people to fall into this trap? How do we set a trap so that people would give money to us? So it is very, 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 very bizarre if you think about it, comparing with our analogy of the ancient hunter-gatherer who just pluck the fruit and just go ask people, do you want it? But of course, the reason why does this comparison between the hunter-gatherer and the modern monetization? Why does this comparison look so uncanny? The reason is I oversimplified the ancient day analogy, because if you think about it, I think the reason people mention monetization a lot is because of first competition. You just imagine we modify the analogy of the ancient human, the hunter-gatherer. We modify that analogy a little. It means what? It means we have 10 hunter-gatherers. All of us pluck really succulent fruits, and then now 10 of us have to compete for the attention of that one herbs collector. And then we have, and if we modify in such a way the analogy, then the word monetization makes sense. And all these 10 hunter-gatherers have to start thinking about, how do I set a trap? How do I package, brand? How do I really make my product alluring? How do I trick the herb collector to want my fruits instead of the remaining 9 hunter-gatherers? And this is why people in a modern sense talk so much about monetization. But however, if you think about it, it's also very odd. Why would such an imbalance appear? Why would there be 10 hunter-gatherers but only 1 herbs collector? Which I believe oftentimes it is not the case. It is not the case. Why would there be such an non-equal equality? Maybe you could explain, herbs collection is a really hard skill. Gathering food is very easy. And if that's the case, the lesson that we can draw from this analogy is that don't waste time talking about monetization. Focus on doing something very, very scarce. Focus on being rare. And that is way much more effective than monetization, I feel. But of course, oftentimes people don't do that because it seems easier to talk about how to set a trap so that the herbs collector would fall into it than actually learning a craft like herbs collection, actually learning a craft that is very hard and scarce. Objectively, it is not clear whether herbs collection is actually that hard. Just like today, a lot of modern skills people say is very valuable. Maybe it's engineering, maybe it's doctoring. People often say it's very hard, but it's not clear whether they are objectively hard, or maybe it is just because they are slightly counterintuitive, or people in the upper class have branded doctors and engineers in such a wily way to brand it as if it is something that only belongs to the elite. Yeah, I'm running out of time. I don't think I have illustrated or enunciated this conundrum very clearly. Let me think about it. Maybe I could do better next time. So, but generally, I just want to mention that the word monetization is very odd. It is worth thinking whether it's a real thing. Could we circumvent this brutal process? I think it's no fun to think about how to set a trap for other people to fall into it. So let's think about it. Could we do better? See you. Goodbye.